Good day.
To comment during the Frankly Speaking show, you first need to open the video that is being streamed live. Look for the chat box on the side or bottom of the video player. This is where you can type your message. Click inside the chat box and use your keyboard to type out what you want to say. You can type words, use emojis, or even ask questions. Once you've typed your message, press the enter key on your keyboard or click the send button.
Good day. If you connect with people in the areas most affected by Melissa, you'll hear the cry for and concern about housing, from the need for a few sheets of zinc or roofing material, or even pieces of tarpaulin, through to desperate need for complete houses in some cases. Good day. This is the Frankly Speaking Jamaica Podcast, the final one for 2025. It's episode number 170. Today we are going to take a look at restoration and relief from the perspectives of a politician, Westmoreland West MP Ian Hayles, Pastor in the West, Laurette Wedderburn-Ellis, and A.V. Hector Joseph from the Trinidad-based charity ITNAC, whose representatives have seen action in the Western parishes. With me are fellow presenters Desmond Richards and Winnie Anderson Brown. Thank you all for joining us. As usual, we welcome your comments and questions. Please use the procedures outlined at the top of the show and just attach your queries to the comment section on the channel. We will try to get to them. Remember to subscribe, and again, you can watch this podcast at any time on YouTube. Welcome, Mr. Hayles and Pastor Ellis. Welcome, MP Hayles and Pastor Ellis. Are you hearing us?
I'm hearing. Thank you very much, Franklin. Happy to be here.
All right, MP Hayles, are you there? All right, I'm sure we'll get him back in a little while. He's coming back on, I think. And Desmond is coming back on. Okay, Pastor, tell us how your church has been involved with the relief or restoration effort. And just tell us a little bit about your church. And that's Desmond. Welcome, Desmond.
Okay, so thank you very much. As I said, I'm happy to be here. I'm belonging to the Belmont and Grove Circuit of Missionary Churches, and that's one of them is in Belmont, and the other one is at Grove, just above White House and turning off. And I must say that it has been very challenging since the onslaught of Hurricane Melissa. Initially, persons' food was the cry. People wanted food, and because people were out of food and water. But in the midst of all of that, people needed to be sheltered. And so one of the things that we have been doing immediately, we were getting, as soon as I could get in and to help to organize, we have our churches in the East and Central Jamaica who provided food packages and tarpaulins. So we were able, right from the get-go, to be on the ground to start handing out food packages and tarps to persons. However, it was difficult then because it was hard to get tarps. So you were just getting a few pieces of tarps. But other than that, we were doing that. Another thing we're doing right from the get-go is that our men from the church have been helping to get persons into safe spaces, because you would imagine when you look at the landscape that there are barely any houses. If I should say, in Belmont in particularly, I had 5 congregants who had houses, and it's all because their houses were decked. All the others would have lost either their complete houses or are just, the bathroom that would have been left out. So persons are in their bathroom, and persons have to be taken out to be sheltered with other persons. The tradesmen from my church started to enclose areas where persons could just get some cover from the rain and from the sun and from the night. So from the get-go, we have been there, just trying to see how we could get persons connected and helping them.
So we're before we're still waiting on MP Hayles, but we just continue to talk to Pastor Ellis. Where did you get the money from to carry out any of this assistance whatsoever?
That's interesting. As I said, the churches in the east and those in central, although some of the central churches were damaged, but those who did not have any damage, they were the ones who were able to get us the help that we needed right away. And in terms of just using things to button up areas, like on a veranda, so persons could be covered in. We just used things that were already there. So boards and zinc, we use those, the men use those to kind of just button up some areas so people could get some help. After that, then we started getting funding from friends and other persons who would have come in, but that was not immediate.
So your assistance has been mainly to church members.
Not necessarily, because we're talking about community. The entire community is devastated. So we were helping all those who needed help. For instance, when food came initially, we were looking out for persons who were elderly. So it wasn't just because initially, you know what was happening. The food was being dropped. And I say dropped because literally that's what it was. The food was dropped on the road. And so those who were on the road would have gotten that. Those persons who were too feeble to come out or who mentally, physically were incapable of getting out there, they did not get any. But when we got our food stuff from our churches in the east and in central Jamaica, we were able not to only help our church members, but to help persons with young children and help persons who were incapable of coming out, older people, persons who would not get anything. We're able to take stuff to them.
So who are you cooperating with, Pastor? And who are you cooperating with? What government agency or any officials? Or were you just running a church-run business?
Franklin, you would have been aware that it was mostly the church and other institutions, persons, local persons and others from overseas who would have come on like in another week or so to start helping. We did not see the government coming on. We did not see government agencies other than probably a couple of weeks after when persons came through to check from NIS to look at structures and to write down the names of persons. But that was what it was. So it was the church and other local and international persons who were helping, one, and then Food for the Poor stepped in. And with that, Food for the Poor partnered with us and provided a 40-foot container. So we're able to, and that was like about 2 weeks ago, to be able to distribute. But prior to then, they would have come to one of the churches and the entire community benefited from that.
So essentially, you're telling me about the church basically almost in a leading role there. What is the situation now? Give us using you mentioned that some of your church members, the vast majority had damage to or lost their houses entirely. What's the situation now with that? And is there outside help, as far as you know, coming to deal with the housing?
A very interesting question, Franklin. Early on, I think Dunn's Construction, they came in. In fact, they were not earmarked. They were heading further into Westmoreland, but they saw a young lady with a little baby, and they stopped to talk with her and found out that her mother's house had been damaged. So they stopped in Belmont And that day, the same men from the church were able, along with Dunn's construction, to erect a small one room for that young girl with her baby and her mother. And through Dunn's enterprise, they were able to get some material. So persons in the area got sheets of zinc and plyboard and some 2x4. But there's another challenge to that, because they are short on labor. So even though some person will have gotten a few building material or a few sheets of zinc, they're still not able to do anything, because one, it's either that they're too numb to move, or two, that they don't have the finances to pay somebody to do so, or three, that they really don't have they don't have the help. So there's really not much help. So the work that our men have been doing from the church is limited. And we actually need persons to come in and to help. Mark you, I must say to you that in my own assessment, more than 90% of the persons between both communities in Grove and in Belmont have not yet started any construction. They have not raised up the board. I'm telling you, I have gone there, and their board still, just as how the hurricane caused the thing fell, they're still there. Persons are still living in their bathroom. So even though some have gotten a little help from that area, the vast majority of them have still not moved. And I'm saying either that they're numb, still too numb to move, or it is that they don't have the help, they don't have the finances, and also some are waiting on government. Well, we hear that the government is coming on in January, so some persons are still waiting. So the truth about it is that there is little to nothing. I mean, other than what we have been doing, there's not much being done. Few persons have the resources to get some boards and get some things together. The most that has happened is that person that picked up broken boards and things, and they have started something. Because one thing that I personally have done is to ask my friends to, I've been raising funds to help to buy zinc, because I realized that a few people have put back up a little 2x4, and they have replaced it with the old zinc. And you know what happened, Franklin, when the rain started to fall, then the water, it's like a sieve. And so one thing in raising those money for buying zinc is that those persons who have started something would have been able to cover their roof. And so we have about 8 or 9 persons who have benefited so far. So they have been able to cover their roof and not having to worry when the rain falls.
Pastor Elliott, I'm really despairing, because the general impression I get when talking to people from that end is what you are now confirming, what you are now underlining, that there is not a lot of assistance coming to people to get putting back up their houses, settling it in even one room. They're still living with family and friends who, by this time, in some cases, I've found it stressful and training for them. And
Franklin, can I break you there? Can I break you? Yeah. What has been happening is that people are now asking people to come out of their houses. People are now saying to people, I need my space. Yeah. I've seen persons who have been put out of where they're staying, and they have nowhere to go because everything went with Melissa took everything. And they have been asked to leave from where they are, because you have to bear in mind that a lot of persons who have even tried to put persons up, they too are compromised with space. And so after 2 months to be still in somebody's settee or in somebody's veranda, that's untenable.
Oh, well, Pastor, I don't know what to say there. But let's welcome Mr. Hayles, MP Hayles.
Hi.
I know that you have challenges with. What is the situation with MP Hayles? Just share with us what you are seeing and understanding from the relief and the risk and the restoration. Just share with us that, please.
First, let me say thank you and let me say good afternoon to your audience. I think first thing I'd want to say in terms of the relief, and it continues to be the same argument, is that the private sector, well-thinking Jamaicans and civil society, along with our foreign partners, are doing more than the government. What do I mean by that? I think the day after the hurricane, our partners, you have people such as GEM, Central World, Central Kitchen, and other entities, individuals from right across Jamaica just drive into Westmoreland and just start doing in terms of what the government ought to have been doing in terms of the social role. 1, 2 is food packages, care packages, and ultimately start the rebuilding of the parish of Westmoreland. So in terms of what I'm seeing on the ground now is that I think we have reached a level where we have put in place all the mechanism that is possible that can be put in place in terms of ensuring that our citizens have food and drinking water, potable drinking water, and that there's some semblance in terms of life getting back to normal slowly. The problem I'm having, however, or we're having in the parish is that there's over 40 assessment done. The government has announced that there's over 40 assessment that has done to citizens without. Sorry,
what do you mean by over 40 assessments? I don't understand that.
40,000. They have gone to over 40,000 households to assess their properties in terms of the roof, in terms of if they have lost the entire structure, or it's partial, or just whatever it is. Government said they have done that. To be honest with you, that's a drop in the bucket as we speak. And I think what
you
has
mean
been
the number that I've had a lot is far greater than the 40,000. I don't understand.
Correct. The number that I've had losses is greater than the 40,000.
What is your estimate of that number?
I think if I have close to, I would say 2,000 citizens without a roof. I've had 1,000 that have lost everything.
I think in your constituency alone that have lost everything.
Yeah, everything, every single thing. So I think the way the government has gone about it is, and as a member of parliament, I asked the Prime Minister in parliament that why not give the opportunity to volunteers to come on board in the country, that lives in the country, know the terrain, to go across the constituency to have the assessment done, just to just have it started, and so that we could put back most of our citizens, give them a roof or put them back in a home before the holidays. That's not the case. I mean, I saw a farmer the other day. He said to me, I don't pray for rain. I used to pray for rain. I don't pray for it anymore because every time the rain falls now, I'm without a roof. So you have that situation. Another big problem is that a lot of our citizens live on what you call squatter land or government land. And I haven't heard anything as yet if the thousands upon thousands that were living on these lands, if they're going to get any assistance or they will be able to rebuild at the same location where they were before. So that's a problem.
MP, why can't you find that out? Because I heard people trying to find that out. I've called a councillor, not from your parish, to find out what is the help people going to get with this. And he couldn't say. Why is that?
Frankly, I don't know. I don't know what the help is. All I know is that I have close to around 7,000 citizens that are basically waiting on the government for some kind of assistance to rebuild and to restart their lives. Not mentioning those persons that, in terms of the businesses that have experienced loss. So I don't know. I mean, I asked the question, so I'm
No, but
also
MP, let's be practical. And we're reminding those people who hear that we're talking to MP Ian Hayles from West Westmoreland. MP, when a man comes to you or a family or a woman and they say, MP, we don't have any house or we only have one little room in what we used to have as a house. What we must do? What do you tell them? What do you tell them?
I said to them, and I have called the Ministry of Labor also. I said to them that the government says that they're doing the assessment. So please, I'm begging you to wait patiently until they get to you. So it has been 2 months now almost. It has been 2 months.
The communist 2 months.
Yes, and Franklin, I can honestly say to you, the majority of my citizens in my constituency is waiting.
Oh, Pastor, you speak directly. Desmond, I hope I'm not going ahead, jumping ahead here, but Pastor, you speak directly to these. What do you say to them, Pastor, when they turn to you and the church for their assistance? Because you were telling us that you don't have the persons and you don't have the material.
Well, that's a very interesting question also, because while the church knows how to pray, we also recognize that faith without works is dead. So we need to have the work along with the faith. It is very challenging because the truth is, as I said before, and Ian has said it, people's livelihood has been destroyed. And because their livelihood of the fisher folks, their pets have been damaged. Persons who work with establishment in the community or in Savlamar and other area, Black River, they have lost their jobs and they have not been getting any money since that has happened. It therefore means that I think the government is very late in coming out of the blocks. Coming out of the blocks in January, and we don't know when in January, and we still don't know what kind of help that will come. It is hard to really say to people where we go from here. So while we can continue to ask private persons and overseas help to help us with things or help us with building material, I really believe that we need to be hearing something clearer and something more tangible. And I also believe that it needs to be happening quicker. We went through the Christmas. We're hoping that people would have been able to start getting into their places. And I mean, I'm not asking for what you had, Franklin. I'm asking about for people to be able to get into something that is called their own, for their own dignity. And to rebuild, if you're going to rebuild, then you really need to start somewhere. And it would have seemed as if we're waiting and there's not much more that you can do, because the help we're getting can only help but so few persons. And there's a vast majority of persons. I'm telling you, just drive up past and you look. Tarps are everywhere. Big houses, small houses. And you see no tarps some places because everything is gone. So we're waiting, and January is up and us in a few days. How soon in January will this money be dispersed? 1. 2, where will people get the building material? Because building materials are not readily available in Westmoreland as we speak. 3, there is the hiking of the price for building material. 4, we do not, over the past 2 years, the country have been reeling from not having sufficient skilled laborers. Where are we going to get the help? So if even a person gets some money to do some rebuilding, are they going to get help to do the construction? Where are these workers going to come from? Will the government help, whether source persons from other parishes or from overseas, to help with this rebuilding? These questions I'm asking. So I'm asking questions myself as my congregant and the community asks questions of me.
MP, how do you, MP Hayles, how do you see, what are the issues that you see going forward now? I hate the phrase going forward, but what are the issues that you see that have to be tackled now? For people who are still, Pastor said earlier, are being asked by their friends or relatives to leave now, not out of wickedness, but just because they need a space. It's been a long time. What are the issues that you see now, MP Hayles, that need to be addressed?
Well, I agree with Reverend Wedderburn, first of all. I think, look, the uncertainty of not knowing what you'll be getting has basically put us in a, the granny would say, in a pickle, because you can't plan, you can't do anything, so you're just sitting there. I mean, and Reverend Wedderburn would know, if you go on the stretch from Savlamar into White House, and if you normally go, let's say, around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, because I live in White House. So if you go normally 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Franklin, you're you're driving by all of these homes without roof on a building. The only thing that is left is a foundation. And most of the citizens still sit in that foundation on a chair, looking out at sea almost every single day. And outside of a level of depression, and uncertainty, as Reverend said, I would have thought, let me give you a perfect example. The government said to every member of parliament, we're giving you $10 million to deal with some of the housing assistance in your constituency. And the maximum, the minimum, the amount you can give each person, the minimum is 100,000. So you take it then, Franklin. You're going to say to me as a member of parliament, pick 100 persons to get assistance. How do I do that when approximately 7,000 need the same assistance? So what I've done, I've risked picking 50, and I've picked 50 churches to also help one member of those 50 churches. But it's difficult because 100 is a drop in the bucket compared to the other 6,900 plus citizens who are waiting for that assistance. But I just think the government wasn't prepared. We were not prepared. Yeah. We were not prepared for Hurricane Melissa. And that's just my view.
Regardless of whether we were prepared or not, who do you, as member of parliament, elected representative of people in Western Westmoreland, who is the point person to whom you can go within the government setup, government and quasi-government agencies? Who do you go to carry out the representation, to make sure that somebody hears and knows what your thinking is about what's to be done? Who is the point person for the MPs, like for you in particular?
There isn't any one person. There isn't a czar. There isn't any one person. I think what we keep doing is we keep going to the news media, keep agitating one. And two at the same time is you have to constantly be calling a minister of government and keep begging. So it's not a centralized process where you say, all right, this one person is that person I go to, which covers all of the ministries and all of the government agencies. It's all over the place. One would say chaka chaka. But it is what it is right now. But all we can do as member of parliament is basically every single day agitate, call, and at some point you hope that from a humanitarian standpoint or from a conscious standpoint or a representative of the government will come in and do what they ought to do for the people of Westmoreland.
And we are coming back to you in a minute for you to give us what you would consider your 3 steps to clearing this logjam, or at least to beginning the process. I don't know if there's a logjam or the process just hasn't started to flow as yet, but coming back to you to say what you would think are the 3 or 4 steps that you would recommend. I just want people to understand and hear what thinking you have. And I'm going back to Reverend Ellis. what would you say are the processes now that you would like to see that your church could support to take us forward on at least on the housing issue, which is a critical issue partly at the moment?
Could you repeat that? Could you repeat that, Franklin?
What are the steps that you would say are crucial to be taken at this time, whether by government, by the government agencies or whatever? And I don't know if Desmond is trying to comment. Desmond, but you are muted if anything.
Hold on, Franklin. Before you bring in the Reverend, let me say something. Are you hearing me?
Yeah, we are hearing you well now.
Yes.
No, listen. The member of parliament, MP Hayles, cannot give you any, or cannot give us any plans or any clear answers to the problems. You know, one of the things you must remember that acquisition, making land available to black people in Jamaica is not on the government's agenda. And when I say it is not on the government's agenda, apart from in the 70s when you had land lease and you had Operation Pride recently, there has been no mass program to make land available to people. Now, what the people of Westmoreland and in Trelawney and some in St. Elizabeth, thousands we are talking about, are facing now this landlessness. You must remember the government did not have a program before Melissa to address this issue. Now, what it has presented us, Melissa has presented us with an opportunity for a radical land reform program to make land accessible to people. Now, we're talking about rebuilding. Now, those persons in the affected parishes who were living on their own lands, they can go ahead and rebuild.
But
those who are living on
Desmond, those who have any resources, so we're talking about not something hypothetical.
I am coming to that, Franklin. I am coming to that. Those who are on government lands and on private lands, there can be no rebuilding process for them. The other thing we must remember that the vast majority of people in these parishes.
Desmond, hold on. We hear that narrative, but what you are saying to me is that the man who MP Hayles is saying, sitting up on the roadside there, into the sea, and if he's on government land, not informal land, nothing can be done for him now in the short term outside of relocating government land, which will take months, possibly years under the system. What is he to do, that man who's on government land?
Well, one of the things that we would expect that some temporary housing facilities would be created to assist those persons all over in the affected areas. The only thing I heard from the government was that they had they were in the process of acquiring some container houses. I haven't heard anything about that. But what MP and all the other people are facing is a long, hard struggle because the government don't have any plans. They did not have any plan to address what we are faced with right now. And it is going to be a very long, hard road ahead.
MP Hayles, would you like to respond to that, sir, and to tell me what you think should be happening to people who were on quoted land? Can you raise it earlier? Can you respond to that? What does one say?
Well, Franklin, I really don't know the answer to that question. The Prime Minister had said that the process is going to be a long one, but he's going to try and engage the citizenry in terms of dealing with the government land that these citizens are now living on. But you asked me a question before, and in looking at the entire process which now exists, and the bottlenecks and red tape and the this and the that, I really think that For example, if you take my constituency, I have approximately 50 communities. In every community, you have citizens who are respected by the entire community. If you pick 5 citizens from these 50 communities, you end up with 250 workers, volunteer. You say to them, look, I'm giving you 2 weeks to do the assessment in your community. After the assessment, you go to the hardware and you get an estimate. The estimate is signed off by the justice of the peace in your community or your pastor in your community. You then find your way down to the Ministry of Labor and turn in your documentation. And the government takes 2 weeks to do any further investigation, process it, and pay you out, let you go and start your life. It can't be this hard.
No, but MP Hayles, you know what I find really frustrating about the entire process is that many of you and many of the communities, many of you guys in the opposition and many of the community leaders have been put out of any process of involvement in the solution. Because
That's true.
An idea like that should be in the mix with somebody saying, no, it can't work, or no, it can work, or at least beginning to discuss it. But there are so many people outside, because I'm listening to Pastor very carefully. She's walking a tightrope. She's doing the things that the church can do. But she and her membership should also be already engaged. I know people all over the place who are doing things, and they're left out of the central circle of governmental proposal or action. And so it's a very limited process or pool of help. Pastor, can you respond to my earlier question that I was saying? What do you mean?
So the two things, because when I heard Desmond speak, and it has come up before, this talk about land tenure, and that is why we have so many board structures, and that is why the damage is so vast. And the fact that people do not have land tenure. And so the question is asked, how do we continue? How do we go into this rebuilding process with persons not having tenure, land tenure? And then we look at the idea to, do we take people and move them from the area? And that can be catastrophic, because you'll be moving people from where they were born and raised and grown and where they live with their friends and their relatives. And have their livelihood. Yes. So just to move them to another area, I don't think that is something practical. I share with Aaron Hayles that the process don't have to be so seem so difficult, because if we're doing the work we're doing as a church, and there's a JP in the area and there are other community leaders in the area, and I'm certain that the church has still remained a trusted entity within the community, why is it that the government is not utilizing persons from the church to carry out this work? And if that was being done, then would have gone far ahead.
Absolutely. I'm with you.
MP Hayles.
Go ahead,
MP Hayles. Mr. Hayles, in your constituency, can you say identify state land where people are squatting on right now?
No, I'm not seeing MP Hayles.
He's not hearing me. He's gone.
We might have lost him.
Yeah.
That's gone.
Yes.
If I can respond, there is state land that persons are squatting on right now as we speak, and where houses have been damaged. And I'm saying, if those land I have been here over for how many scores? Let me leave it there. And I'm saying, how is it that persons have been on those lands unmolested, and probably some people don't even know the legal process. But let's say they are already there and there's much more of that land that is available. So if we're going to even move some people and put them somewhere, there's land available. There's no shortage of land,
Yes.
Government
No,
land is there and available.
No, there's no shortage of land. What we are seeing here, you remember, these people, generations living on those land. And what has happened is that over the years, nothing has been done undone. It is not on the government's agenda to address that issue. That is the situation, If there wasn't
I take your point, Desmond, that this has afforded the government an opportunity to move, at least using these areas, one of these parishes or all of them, and Westmoreland in particular with the land tenure issue, to deal with it. But Desmond, that does not obviate the need for people to be their shelter to be dealt with. No, next week, the following week, we're going 2 months already. The 28th.
We can deal with the land issue. We can deal with the land issue after. But people need to go back into a shelter. We can't afford to have people still out in sun and rain and breeze. They are not animals.
And the point that I'm making to you, members of the thing, that the government has no plan. There was no plan in place to address that. Right? The only thing so far you have heard from the government, you can tell me if you have heard anything else, is that they were planning to buy some containerized homes. No, I don't know how many. But so far you have not heard, I have not heard any plan from the government to address the emergency situation of providing the homeless with temporary shelter. I have not heard anything. And that is why we have people power.
That is why we have people power. And I believe that it is the people who need to say that this is what we require.
Two things I want to say at this point. 3 of the comments that are here are for our next guest, saying, hello, we are listening. And the other thing I want to say is that what is going on exposes our system of government. We don't have a system that deals with this. We don't have the structure to deal with the challenges that we have now. And here's a question. What plan can you propose to the government? That's a question.
What plan can you propose to the government?
Yes, that's a question.
Desmond has been proposing a plan. Desmond is saying that they should... Well, Desmond, what plan can you propose to the government? You answer that one.
That the government must initiate immediately a land reform program to make land accessible to people. And this question about it will take a long time. If the government want to do it, it don't have to take any long process. You don't have to take any long process. You have the state land. So when the government want to do something, you see how the government can make things work when they want to do it. Well, what I would like them to do is to implement an emergency plan to address land tenure in Jamaica.
All right. Okay. We are joined now by Hector Joseph of ITNAC. Now, she's going to tell us a little bit about that Trinidadian charity group, and they've been working in Westmoreland, essentially. Welcome, Hector Joseph. Can you hear us? We're getting a feedback from you.
Blessings.
We're getting a feedback from your telephone, from your system.
Are you hearing me now?
Better, yes. Let's see if that works now.
Are you hearing me better?
Yes.
Are you hearing me better? Okay.
Yes, please go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Good afternoon, panelists.
No, it's not great. It's not great at the moment. I don't know if you can move a little from where you are. I know you are supposed to be in the Ocherios area or so, but this reception is the feedback is bad. You're getting a feedback. I don't know why. Winnie, you want to give us the questions in the meantime? Inspector Joseph, we're having difficulty with hearing you.
There's short. Okay.
Go ahead again. Go ahead. And
Okay,
when you
let me
go,
get a
just go
headphone.
ahead.
We got a headphone meantime.
Yes.
Go ahead, because we really want to hear you.
Okay, so we are ETNAC. Is there not a cause? We are from Trinidad and Tobago, and we are part of a regional grouping, Response Caribbean, which is like a grassroots CARICOM basically. So there's like the overriding body, Response Caribbean, and within the grouping, there are different island groups. And so in the case of ITNAC, we have been around for 23 years. We worked in Jamaica in 2007 or 2009 with Dean. We came around the floods around 2010, 2011. We shipped a 40-foot container last year, post-barrel. This is my 4th trip, and the team has made about 6 trips. We have shipped 2 40-foot containers, and so we are still in that phase. I know that for some people, there's a conversation that the first phase is finished and people don't need food and stuff. Well, I mean, that's left up to interpretation. A lot of people that we meet still have a need, whether we like it or not. When people who have low incomes, and we have seen it in Haiti, all over the region, all over the world where we do disaster response, when persons who have low incomes are affected by natural disasters, for obvious reasons, it takes them a longer time to bounce back. So
So
the
just give us
conflict going into
give us your perspective on that. You are saying that from what you are seeing, where you are, where you have been, there's still a need for food. That there's still a need for food as part of the
yes,
relief measure.
that sort of clinical approach, saying we finish phase 1, we enter phase 2. That's theoretically what you might learn in a school that might say, okay, first 30 days, this, that, whatever. But it doesn't work like that. So the other phases have to coexist, because if you are in a community that, for example, a lot of the infrastructure is down, people don't have jobs, um, food security is an issue. And we can't just say, well, let's move on to the next phase without looking at those that were left behind in the first phase who are yet to get, or they were already scraping by before hurricane. The hurricane just made their bad situation worse. So we've got to sort of marry the long term, the medium, and of course the short term and immediate. And that is a challenge that I always have as an NGO on the ground with technocrats who seek to be more clinical. Let's go to the next phase. So there's a lot more to be done at phase 1 or first phase.
Excuse me, but where is what stage are you at now? Where are you? You are still
Okay, so
giving out food
the boat.
packets.
We are doing the boat. We have built 2 shops in Forepath in St. Elizabeth. We are giving people zinc, and we're looking at doing another 16 homes in the Beeston Spring area. And we're looking forward, looking at micro enterprise, looking at mentoring programs. But at the same time, still giving food. Christmas Day, we went out. Christmas Eve Day, we went out. We gave over 450 lovely meals with curry goat and esco beach and chicken and toys and stuff, because there's a psychosocial aspect of disaster response. It's not, as I said, it's not just let's move them along as fast as possible so we can, it's seeing people where they are, spending that time. How would I have spent my Christmas had there not been a Melissa?
Mhm.
And seeing how we can, so we use a more humanitarian approach. Not that others don't, but I'm just speaking from our perspective. And so that's why we say we are last mile. We go the journey. And of course, it's a bit more difficult because we are donor funded. And after a certain amount of days and weeks and months after a disaster, usually there's donor fatigue, or people have just moved on to next, whatever the next story is. So we are
Well,
there in the
I need
picture.
to ask you two quick questions here. The first one, I heard you mention zinc at one stage. Can you tell us what's your assessment of what's the situation with shelter there? And can you also tell us where does your group get most of its funding from to do whatever it's doing in Jamaica at the moment?
Okay, I only heard the second question, which is where do we get funded? So we are a grassroots organization. That means that the rank and file persons, individuals, a granny somewhere giving us 20 US, maybe some giving us 500 US, maybe some giving us 1,000, but it's a cumulative effort. It's a sort of like crowdfunding. So because in Trinidad and Tobago, where we are based, we have a good reputation for reaching out, whether it's Haiti, Jamaica. Last year we were very robust with Beryl, the volcano incidents, and wherever people know that we would be there underground and that we would not just take their donations and send it to the government and just let it go out into nothingness, so we can't account for it. They know that we are last mile. So immediately, for example, once we knew that a hurricane was looking to hit Jamaica, we began to put things in place and mobilize. And once the hurricane hit, corporate Trinidad and other entities, even some of the state employees called us to say, what are you all doing? They don't ask us if you all, what are you all doing for Jamaica? And we just say, okay, we're going in on the ground, and we were here a few days after. We're going in on the ground. We are sending the containers, we're sending the volunteers, and we begin to mobilize immediately as soon as we could to respond, right? Our ideal goal is to go into a country 48 hours after disaster. In the case of the Jamaica, that was not possible. The airport was closed. As in a lot of cases, the airport was closed, and then there were no flights. So most of our funding, some individuals, some companies, but generally individuals and churches. And in the next couple of months, we would be doing some fundraising events, dinners, telethons, whatever, to keep, because now after we have done food and stuff, we need to go into the more expensive aspect, which is getting zinc, getting lac,
The other
getting
question that
blocks,
I
and
was
that's
asking is, the other question is that you alluded to, or you mentioned that you had given out zinc at some point. I wanted to ask you, what do you see of the shelter needs that have come to your attention? Just tell us a little bit about that and what you have done with regard to shelter.
as devastated as murder.
Mrs. Hector,
We have
you
to look
moved from
at
where you were, we were hearing you well. You moved into a smaller space and we're having problems now. You were hearing you well when you were outside of that space where you were walking to. So we're having problems hearing you now. We're having okay. When she gets back into another space and comes out of that space she walked into, we'll possibly hear her again. Pastor, our program is winding down. Mrs. Hector, Mrs. Joseph, what I was saying is that you have walked into a space which is not good. The reception is not good in that space. If you come back out to where you were, that might be better. But Pastor, how is it? How you managing with volunteers? Where you are at, and how many people are part of your group at the moment? And it's a missionary. What's the denomination, Pastor?
It's the Missionary Church Association in Jamaica.
Okay, the Missionary Church Association in Jamaica. You are representing,
and so we have churches in all the parishes except St. Anne's, St. Mary, and Portland. So we, for instance, I should say that as it stands now, our men's ministry, National Men's Ministry, have constructed a small apartment for one member of the community who have lost everything. And as we speak, about a week ago, that person was able to move back into that space. In terms of, I can go back to tell you that at Christmas Day, one of the churches from Mandeville came and actually did Christmas dinner for close to 400 persons. That was not just a church. It was done at the church, but for the community around, who benefited from a sumptuous meal cooked on wood fire. And the Sunday before, we had another church from St. Elizabeth, one of the missionary churches, coming over, cooking, providing bunks about, providing
But
all the stuff.
nothing about the meals. Sorry, Pastor, nothing about the meals which Mrs. Joseph raised. I thought we had said that we are beyond that now. We outside of the meals.
So the point I'm making is that while we're looking at the rebuilding aspect of getting persons covered, we're still continuing the process of ensuring that persons that their physical needs are dealt with, the emotional needs are dealt with, that we have been programmed with our children that is helping them to deal with the issue. And that is why I am having an issue if we're going to think of migrating people, because you'll be moving them from school, you'll be moving them from family, and that will be disrupting the whole psychosocial even more than how it is already disrupted. So the whole thing of building is crucial. People getting back under their own shelter, and we're waiting with a bated breath for what the government is about to do, and what other help we can get from the other entities that have been helping us so far.
Did anybody from Labor and Social Security talk to you, Pastor, or any of your
They have spoken to persons in residents in terms of their home.
Okay, they've spoken to some of the residents in terms of their home, but not like you who are connecting with
No.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Franklin, as it stands now, the government has that there's no process from the government to include civil society and other people with the recovery program. They have not invited. For example, the opposition is not invited. Civil society is not invited. Right?
I find that really staggering. It's demotivating. It's hard to understand why. It really is hard to understand why. If we're going to be pulling together and pulling everybody together.
If we're really going to have a successful rebuilding program, then we need to start on the ground. We need to talk to the people on the ground. We need to talk to those who are working on the ground. We need to talk to persons who are respected on the ground and persons who will help in the process, and where you can look at fairness.
And establish institutions and groups.
Amen. Yeah.
Well, Winnie, I don't know. Some of the questions I think you said were intended for. What can you run
Avanel, they were saying, hello, Avanel, we're listening. What plan can you propose? We did that question already. And Florence Dryden is saying the short-term plan for immediate housing. What are the pros and cons? How can the group motivate the government to listen and act promptly?
Yes. Well, I can't answer that one, but I know that we need all of Jamaica in this effort.
Yes.
Well, that's our show for today. We're not going to be able to get Avanel. She's I see her trying to get on. She's muted as well, and so sad because I really wanted to hear what her group from Trinidad, and we really applaud them for jumping in and coming. When our CARICOM brothers and sisters assist, it is always welcome, as we hear about some of the faraway groups and so on, but often we don't hear about our Caribbean neighbors. That's our show today, and the final one for the year 2025. Remember, you can go to the Frankly Speaking Jamaica YouTube channel anytime for this or the other podcasts that we have posted. Thanks today to Ian Hayles, MP, Westmoreland, Pastor. Also, we call you all sorts of names along the way. Well, we're sorry. I apologize. Pastor Wedderburn-Ellis and other Ava Hector Josephs of McKnight, and thanks to Desmond, Winnie, and Joshua Black, who have been with me right through the year. On behalf of all of us, here's wishing you a safe and prosperous 2026. And let us not forget those Jamaicans who are still affected in one way or the other, one degree or the other. Those who can't get their livelihood together, those who are farming and have lost so much, those with their small businesses, those who have lost their houses entirely or roof or parts of it. Let's not forget them. Those who are still without electricity.
Yes.
Parts of St. Anne, for example, even which are not affected, still without electricity. On behalf of all of us, I'm Frankly McKnight. Until then.
God richest blessings.
Bye.